Tell me when you start hitting.
Now.
Alright, so tonight's the night. We're about to see Aquaman with my sister. Wanted to try and go in with no expectations. I don't know if I succeeded, but I don't think it's going to be as good as BVS. So right off the bat, that's already working in its favor. But that said, I'm very excited for this movie, and I'm excited because Mr. Momoa, he's got me excited, and he's been backing Zack Snyder and backing BVS, and for that, I love you. So, that's it.
All right, take 4. All right, so this is my Aquaman movie review. A day or two late, and much procrastination, and one messy first attempt later, that ended up not really being what I want to use because it's too long and the ending was cut off. This is my Aquaman review, so let's get into it. I'm gonna first go over the premise of the story. So, the premise of Aquaman is Arthur Curry, that's his surface name, or Orin, that's his Atlantean name, goes back to life as usual for him after the events of Justice League and fighting alongside the other heroes and saving the Earth from an alien invasion. He goes back to globe trotting and bar hopping and rescuing people in the open ocean. And after doing some heroing, Mira comes to recruit him because Orm, his half-brother, and Atlantis are sick of our crap on the surface and our mismanagement of the planet and polluting the planet, and they want to teach us a lesson and basically make their presence known and attack the surface and change the status quo, make the surface dwellers learn their place on the planet. So they intend to attack the surface, and she comes to recruit Arthur because she agrees with that plan, and he refuses. And after, we'll say, a warning shot from the sea dwellers, which we see in the trailer of a tidal wave, he decides to go with her to try and help stop this future impending attack. And the plan to stop this attack is to acquire a legendary Atlantean artifact that basically everyone knows about, but no one knows where it is or even if it's real. And if he can acquire that, he will be worthy, and he'll be able to potentially challenge his brother and stop the attack on the surface world. Let's get into the quality of the movie, the pros and the cons. Some of the pros about Aquaman is it did not hold back. It really went for visually, adventure-wise, and it felt very grand, and some people are throwing around the term epic. It felt very expansive and adventurous. For me, this is what Wonder Woman could have been and should have been as far as committing to a grandiose story. Another pro is it actually connects to the DCEU, or the DC Extended Universe, or the other movies as a whole, where it mentions Steppenwolf, it mentions the Olympians, so it brings in some of the shared history of Wonder Woman and the events in previous movies, so it makes it feel more connected. Another pro that this movie had going for it was Aquaman's half-brother Orm. His acting was good for what they gave him to work with, and his motivations seemed legitimate, and he had a nuanced, I guess, belief system, and he was just a nuanced person. The fighting was done well. The power scaling, showing how powerful different people are, different creatures are, how durable different people are, different creatures are, how durable different technology is, was also well done. It showed established limits of what people could and could not take. It was not left up to guessing. It felt like there was some ground rules. This is more subjective, but another thing that was a pro is it was fun and exciting for me. But all right, let's get into the cons real quick. Some of the cons were the acting. Some of it was poor or corny or cheesy, and some of the characters were over the top and too extreme and just not portrayed very well. It felt like Nicole Kidman was phoning it in and was basically just, playing the role that she didn't give much depth to the role. Another person that falls into that bad acting category was a scientist that's kind of a crackpot expert about Atlantis, and he just seemed very phony and not recognizable to anything that we'd see in real life, like when he's on the news. It doesn't seem like any real world expert or even somebody that's a conspiracy theorist that has some kind of notoriety or platform. It was very generic, typical, zany scientist. The CG, although it looks very appealing and beautiful or interesting, it does not look real. So Into the Spider-Verse just came out, which is an all CG animated movie, and this is supposed to be a live action movie, and they could almost be in the same category. So although it's appealing to look at, it does not look real, which is a con. There's a lot of goofy comedy and slapstick humor, which can make for an enjoyable experience, but ultimately detracts from the realism and logic in a movie. A perfect example of this is when Aquaman encounters some pirates and humor ensues, where in real life they'd be fighting for their lives. In the movie they're taking moments and pauses for comedic relief and laugh breaks. So it's like he breaks into the submarine like we see in the commercial, and two of the pirates do the very tried and true, overused double take look at each other and proceed to try and attack Aquaman. Instead of just acting like a real team of trained, serious killers, they act like comedic slapstick cannon fodder in a superhero movie or just a movie period. Another thing that is a con for the movie that only is a con because of how it was done was the public service announcement or the commentary on how humans are treating the environment. It's a good message to have in the movie, and it's a real message, especially since humans are destroying the earth and polluting in the oceans, and all the plastic and waste and wreckage and all that stuff is very real stuff. We're hurting animals, killing animals. But the way it was done in the movie seemed kind of typical and surface level and like Captain Planet after school type of thing. Another thing that detracts from the movie is the movie kind of focuses more on evoking feelings than actually developing realism in the world. So again, they rather focus on making you laugh or making you feel happy, sad, whatever, than actually developing the world in a realistic way or making it feel as nuanced as the real world is, or as it was in things like Batman vs. Superman or Man of Steel, where there's just a complexity to human behavior and human nature and the human world. This does not have that. But overall, the pros far outweigh the cons, and Aquaman is a pretty good movie overall. The way it's executed and does what it sets out to do, they do pretty well. So the action, the story is told in an understandable way. The visuals and the music are appealing. It has a variety of soundtracks and worlds and locations. It has orchestral, it has a lot of electronic, it has some songs made specifically for the movie. And overall, I think Aquaman is a pretty good movie. Is it the best of the DC extended universe? I don't think so. but it is on the upper end. Well, there's only 6 movies, so we'll say it's in the top 3. Now, is it my favorite of the DC Extended Universe? Also no. But again, I would say it's in the top 3. So overall, I think it's a pretty good movie. Now I'm going to get into my own personal likes and dislikes about the movie. Things I liked about the movie. I liked the locations. It felt like there's a lot of different locations. I liked the globe-trotting. I liked the underwater world. It felt a lot like a Sinbad swashbuckling movie and had hints of like Clash of the Titans, as my sister would say. And it just felt like a mythic story. There's a realm in this movie that they have to venture to get closer to their goal. And there's these creatures and this tropical setting. It appeals to me personally as an awesome adventure. And then after that, there's like this, what seems like an underworld setting where there's a creature, something that he has to encounter. And it just felt like Hercules' 12 Labors, Clash of the Titans, or some kind of mythological story. And there were moments of fantasy. One of the royal family's daughter, the Fisherman King's daughter, reminded me of the princess in Neverending Story. So it just had a very fantastic and mythic, magical feeling to it that I personally enjoyed. I also appreciated that they showed, as I mentioned in the pros, that there's limitations, there's rules, and they established it. That's one of the things that the DC Extended Universe does well. There are rules, there are consequences, and things don't just seem to be made up and happen like in the Marvel Universe, where the technology and the magic and everything that happens seems to be convenience-based and based on that moment in time in the story. The fighting was also enjoyable to me. It was pretty intense. The choreography was pretty well done. The different people felt powerful. The technology felt powerful. The creatures felt powerful. I enjoyed the music. There's a lot of electronic music, which surprised me. And the score for the movie, although it wasn't very distinct, was enjoyable, especially the theme that seemed to be used for the villains, especially Black Manta, but then also with Orm, appealed to me. Things I disliked. One thing that's a con that I disliked, but I forgot to mention in the cons, some of it was overly convenient. Like, this person is just where they need to be in order for things to work out for them. A spoiler here, Black Manta is defeated, and he is drifting in the ocean, and overly conveniently, the scientist that we mentioned earlier that's a crackpot expert on Atlantis comes across him. Things like that are not only not appealing, they are turn-off to me, they also detract from the story's realism and believability. So, you're an expert, fine. You can travel and you can search and all this stuff, but this planet is huge. So, one person being adrift in the ocean, even if you're on the ocean searching for whatever you're searching, the chances of you encountering them are slim to none. So, there are moments that are overly convenient that I personally find very off-putting. Now, this is a personal preference thing that can or cannot work for some people, and also I am kind of uncertain about. There's a narration throughout the movie by Aquaman, and sometimes his mother, but mainly Aquaman. And I don't know how I feel about narration or expose. Generally, I dislike expose where the character is telling the audience what the audience needs to know, or catching them up for the movie and the scene. But narration is different than expose, but at the same time it feels a little, I don't know, lazy, or I don't know how I feel about it, but I just figure I'll mention it. Again, I dislike Nicole Kidman's acting. It seemed very fake and phoned in, non-committal. It seemed just like stuff that you come to expect in not only superhero movies, but movies in general. Now, there's a scene when she first encounters her future baby daddy, where she's in his house and she doesn't know our ways or whatever, and she's hungry, and she eats his fish, his goldfish. And it reminded me of in Venom, which is going to be another spoiler, where he, after being infected by the parasite, eats a live lobster. Where in Venom it worked for me because he's almost possessed, you could say, and has an irresistible hunger and urge. This just seemed, in Aquaman it seemed like, oh, she doesn't know our ways, she doesn't know our customs, let's make her weird, and let's give her a little slapstick gag. And that didn't work for me. I thought it was very corny and very typical. Back to the convenience thing. Orm, who's actually not, well, he actually is a villain because he actually is kind of a corrupt government official. But anyways, he's not all bad, I'll say. Anyways, he does something to one of the allies or one of the good guys earlier in the movie, and then at the end, he gets his comeuppance, which is not only overdone and played out, but it makes no sense because him being a government official, this person below him should not have authority over him. And even though in this moment of the movie, the status quo is up in the air of, all right, now who's ruler and now who does what, it would have been better for Atlantis to be like, all right, let's figure this out, instead of, all right, let's take our known leader and our known king into captivity. It felt very overly convenient, and let's tie this up in a neat bow, and let's make the audience feel good about themselves, and he got his, and it just felt very cliche, unrealistic, and lazy. I dislike the scientist. It felt like he shouldn't have been in the movie at all, and the CNN or Fox News scenes should not have been in the movie if they were going to be as generic and cliche as they were. They did not feel real. They did not feel real. In fact, the surface world in general felt a character, like almost like a surface level, pun intended, I guess, a surface level underdeveloped. It felt overly simplified, the surface world. It did not feel real at all. Like, for instance, the newsreel in this compared to the news montage in BVS, this, you can definitely see the difference easily. There's just too many cliche or lazy or phony things in this. But overall, I think Aquaman was a pretty good movie, and overall, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I think I enjoyed it more than it is good. So if we're talking about quality, I'd say it's probably about a 7+, maybe a 7.5. If we're talking about my own personal enjoyment for a movie, I think it is maybe an 8.5. Alright, now feel free to share your thoughts. Tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm right. Comment about the DCEU. Also, what's your most anticipated movie, superhero movie, coming up? Mine personally is Shazam after this. I'm definitely curious to see how they build upon the world and how it connects to the things that have come before, and if it connects to the Snyderverse or if it connects to the Whedonverse and what WB is doing now. Hopefully, it will vindicate and validate Zack Snyder and lead to us getting the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Help me get the Snyder Cut. You need the Snyder Cut. I want the Snyder Cut. I need the Snyder Cut. Let's get the Snyder Cut. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll try and get better at making videos. Thanks.